In the late 1940s and 1950s, many deemed the deliberate or the inadvertent alteration of atmospheric conditions by human activity, also known as weather modification, as a promising science of the future. Currently, the most common form of weather modification is cloud seeding, which increases rain or snow, usually for the purpose of increasing the local water supply. What is weather modification? Any activity performed with the intention of producing artificial changes in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere. See 15 Code of Federal Regulations Section 908 for what is considered weather modification. What role does NOAA play in weather modification? Companies that intend to engage in weather modification activities within the United States are required by the Weather Modification Act of 1976, 15 Code of Federal Regulations Section 908, to provide a report to the administrator of NOAA at least 10 days prior to undertaking the activity. Those reports are filed with the Weather Program Office and may be found on the NOAA Central Library website. Does NOAA conduct weather modification or weather modification experiments? NOAA does not research or conduct weather modification experiments and has no plans to do so in the future. Why does NOAA collect information about weather modification? The Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972, 15 U.S.C. Section 330 ET requires that all persons who conduct weather modification activities within the United States or its territories report such activities to the U.S. Secretary of Commerce at least 10 days prior to and after undertaking the activities. Failure to report can result in fines of up to $10,000. All weather modification projects must be reported via the appropriate email address, weather.modification@noaa.gov, prior to being implemented. They are compiled and then posted on the NOAA Weather Modification website. Activities subject to reporting. Weather modification activities are defined as any activity performed with the intention of producing artificial changes in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere. See 15 CFR Section 908.1. The following, when conducted as weather modification activities, shall be reported. See 15 CFR Section 908.3. Seeding or dispersing of any substance into clouds or fog to alter drop size distribution, produce ice crystals or coagulation of droplets, alter the development of hail or lightning, or influence in any way the natural development cycle of clouds or their environment. Using fires or heat sources to influence convective circulation or to evaporate fog. Modifying the solar radiation exchange of the Earth or clouds through the release of gases, dusts, liquids, or aerosols into the atmosphere. Modifying the characteristics of land or water surfaces by dusting or treating with powders, liquid sprays, dyes, or other materials. Releasing electrically charged or radioactive particles or ions into the atmosphere. Applying shock waves, sonic energy sources, or other explosive or acoustic sources to the atmosphere. Using aircraft propeller downwash, jet wash, or other sources of artificial wind generation. Using lasers or other sources of electromagnetic radiation, or other activities undertaken with the intent to modify the weather or climate, including solar radiation management activities and experiments. B. The requirement to report does not apply to activities of a purely local nature that can reasonably be expected not to modify the weather outside of the area of operation. This exception is presently limited to the use of lightning deflection or static discharge devices in aircraft, boats, or buildings, and to the use of small heat sources, fans, fogging devices, aircraft downwash, or sprays to prevent the occurrence of frost in tracks or fields planted with crops susceptible to frost or freeze damage. Also, the requirement to report does not apply to religious activities or other ceremonies, rites, and rituals intended to modify the weather. C. All activities noted in paragraph A must be reported at least 10 days before the commencement of such project or activity. However, after the administrator has received initial notification of a planned activity, he may waive some of the subsequent reporting requirements. This decision to waive certain reporting requirements will be based on the general acceptability, from a technical or scientific viewpoint, of the apparatus and techniques to be used. D. Other reporting exceptions may be made in the future by rule of the administrator.